Week 1 is officially on the ledger, and for the Seahawks, it was marked with heartbreak. Joining me to discuss what went right, what went wrong, and how much to read into it is ESPN Seattle's Stacy Rost. Let's light him up.
I'm Jacson Bevins, and this is Cigar Thoughts.
Welcome back to the Cigar Lounge. I am Jacson Bevins, and along with my indecent producer, Mike Barwin, this is the Cigar Thoughts podcast, and I couldn't be happier to have Stacy sitting down with us. But before we get there, cigars and whiskey. Cigar Thoughts is proud to be partnered with Seattle Cigar Concierge and Balvenie Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Seattle Cigar Concierge and I have teamed up to release 2 versions of high-quality Cigar Thoughts stogies, both of which you can purchase by following the link on the show page or by visiting cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Mike and I love doing this show, and there are 2 ways y'all listening and watching can help support it so that we can keep the episodes coming. One is by purchasing the cigars, and the other is by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Cigar Thoughts, where you can watch full episodes as well as the funny and insightful clips that Mike puts together. Give a thumbs up to the stuff you like, and let us know what you think in the comments. And of course, you can listen to us everywhere you get your podcasts. Well, we're back. First of all, thank you to everyone that's reached out wondering when the next episode is going to be, because I know it's been a couple of weeks, so it means a lot that y'all are wanting more of the show. To be honest, we had an amazing 90-minute season preview episode with ESPN's Brady Henderson last week. But that show was lost to an uploading glitch that I am sure had nothing to do with the fact that Brady lives on a boat. So even though that one is lost to the sands of time, we now have real football action to talk about. And isn't that why we're all here? That's why I'm stoked to be joined by one of the single most enjoyable guests we've ever had on the show. She co-hosts the Bump and Stacy show for 710 ESPN Seattle with another friend of the show, Michael Bumpus, and has been a staple of the Cigar Thoughts live draft show over the years. She brings a realness to her coverage of the team that I appreciate so much, and I am thrilled to have her back in the Cigar Lounge. She is Stacy Rost. Stacy, thanks for coming in.
I am so happy to be here, as always.
Well, it's a pleasure for sure, and we actually have football to talk about, and win or loss, it just feels good to stop projecting, how are we going to translate what happened in training camp, or who do we think's going to make the 53-man roster? And it's like, nope, now we are at least playing the sport that we all care about. And, for your job, you've already had hours to talk about this and interact with the fans and get their feedback. And so, we're about 24 hours away at the time of recording from the end of the game. It's enough time to really kind of process things. Mm-hmm. Outside of that outcome, which obviously is disappointing for the Seahawks and for their fans, what stood out most to you from that game yesterday?
I think what stood out most to me is that this team is, starting with offense, still very much under construction. Like, it felt like, especially, I'm sure there were other Seahawks fans that felt this way. You watch this game, enter with questions on offense, leave with questions on offense, so some of them slightly different. And then you watch Lamar Jackson and you watch Josh Allen, and you're just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm watching miles ahead of where this team is. And that's okay, right? Kind of expected. No one entered this season thinking the Seahawks offense would take the world by storm. But I think you just have this instant comparison of how many unanswered questions you have and how many steps you'd like to see them take. Overall, anytime a game is close, there are 1, 2, 3 things you look at and you go, that's the difference in the game. And for me, those differences happened on defense, not offense.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that we take the things that went right for granted and then bemoan the things? Well, if these bad things had been good, then they would have won. And we're never like,
perfect.
Yeah, we're never like, well, if these good things had been bad, they would have lost, right? We're just like, well, of course it went. Obviously. Those things went according to plan. And it's just human nature. We focus on it's a biological survival instinct to focus on what went wrong so that you can hopefully prevent it from happening again. Not that we as fans have anything to do with whether they make the adjustments or not, but you mentioned the defense, and I'm glad you did, because I would like to start there, because there's lots to talk about with the offense. But I felt like this defense played a really good game.
Yeah.
And if you had told me you can either take allowing the 49ers to score 17 points or take your chances with any other outcome, I think we're both saying, give me the 17 every time, because you would expect at home that you can score at least 17 points in regulation, and Seattle couldn't do it. But the defense was really good. And obviously we're going to talk about what went wrong on that final drive, and specifically with the player who was involved on the two biggest plays in that drive with Riq Woolen. But again, they had given up 10 points in 57 minutes up into that point, and had played what I think was really, really good football. And to me, that was encouraging, because coming into the season, that's what we were all banking on, that if this team is going to make noise, it will be because of the defense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think we knew that heading into the season. And it's why with this one, it felt so much like it's unfair to ask that you be perfect. Your point is fair, that if you were to be told, hey, the defense only gives up 17 to the 49ers and they're healthy, so what are you going to do? Well, shoot, average offense last year was 21, 22 points per game. The Seahawks were 22 points per game last year, which is good for about 15th, 16th. San Francisco was also 22 points per game. You'd think I can expect at least a version of this offense to be average, like just be average.
Yep.
And unfortunately they weren't. But that being said, even though the burden is greater, that's how you build. And that, for that matter, it's how you've invested. When you look at their salary cap breakdown, they've really invested heavily in the defense. So you might leave the game going, man, what a shame that essentially 3 explosive plays ended up costing them defensively.
Yep.
But guess what? If that's how you're making, your plan for the season, if that's your secret sauce, we're going to be okay on offense, and then we're just going to have to be exceptional defensively. Then you've got to be exceptional defensively. It feels ridiculous to say that allowing only 17 points in a game that included a couple takeaways, a blocked field goal, wasn't exceptional. But unfortunately, it wasn't. Not good enough for them to win.
Yeah, that's right. And look, we might as well get that last drive out of the way, because it's what people want to talk about. I'm sure that's how it went on your show. That's how my conversations and my text threads have been today. They want to talk about Riq Woolen. And look, he lost it on 2 big plays down the stretch, and it wasn't a lack of physical ability on either of them. He just, when he was a rookie, that guy was playing so free, nothing to lose, very honest. Everyone was honest about how he didn't really know what he was doing. It was just all instincts. And you're like, oh my God, look at this clay that can be molded, right? Cornerbacks aren't built like him. They don't move like him. And then you see those instincts and the ball skills, and you're just like, it's going to be wheels up from here. And then he had the shoulder injury that made him shy on contact. And then last year was very up and down. And all of a sudden, it looks like a guy who's guessing a lot. And on the deep play to Pearsall, he guessed, and he guessed wrong. And then on the game-winning touchdown to Tonjes, I mean, I was hearing that guy's name for the first time in my life yesterday when he was beating the Seahawks.
Yeah.
He looked like he was in position to make that play and just was a little passive on it. And it's hard, when you're struggling and when you're aware that you're struggling, it's hard to play free, because you do get drawn into the mechanics and into the minutia. But this wasn't a guy who played a bad game. I thought he actually played really well in this one, including a very big pass breakup in the second half in the end zone that turned 7 points into 3 points. So as much as we all want to bury this guy, I don't think it was all bad yesterday.
Well, I would imagine. I'm so glad you mentioned that Christian McCaffrey play, because I was fully prepared. We had this interview with Ernest Jones where he said, we want to feed fans chaos. And so he has that interception. You have Job with the interception. It's a great line. And then you have Riq Woolen, just insane closing speed, incredible length, reaching out, tips of the fingers, this batted pass. And you're just thinking like, my article's being written as I see.
Yeah, totally.
This is incredible. So barring those 2 plays, and I know that he had some other moments that maybe weren't great, but I was fully prepared to be like, wow, this defense fed fans chaos. Dinner is served. Here's the appetizer. What else is the rest of the season going? The analogies were there. I was so ready for it. And instead, the final taste that's left in our mouths, no pun intended, is of 2 horrible plays. And I was getting into a bit of a debate today about which was more egregious. I see the touchdown as a hell of a catch. And Bump was like, look, Reek needs to be more aggressive. And to your point, Bump also said the same thing, exactly the same thing, where he was like, you can tell that he's playing with some restriction. And that's a point when you need to attack. He was like, you can't sit there like you're a receiver and wait for the ball to come into your hands. Like, what are you doing? The ball's not going to you. So I absolutely agreed. I saw the game being lost specifically on that 45-yard bomb to Ricky Pearsall. And that, to me, ideally, they don't allow a touchdown. Ideally, that doesn't happen. That's where this was lost. That was the most explosive play allowed. It was Reek getting fooled, and you're in a contract year right now. Like, you can't be making these mistakes. And I know that's unfair to ask. This isn't just second guessing yourself because of doubt. This is not making the smart play. Like, you made a mistake that you're going to make because you're human, but you really shouldn't. Again, not in a contract year.
And sometimes, I mean, you're guarding NFL players. Sometimes you're just going to get beat, right? Like, you know, when, funny enough, Sam Darnold led the game-winning drive against the Seahawks last year, Justin Jefferson just made a hell of a catch. And like, sometimes that's just going to happen because he's Justin Jefferson. But that's not what happened on that play. He didn't just get outplayed by Pearsall. He just played it poorly. And he gave the 49ers that big completion. And that is
fully
tough.
Capable of blocking that and stopping that. And to his physical abilities, is perfectly capable of coming up big on that drive and didn't.
Yeah. And you know, it's like when I'm probably too fond of making cross-sport analogies, but when you're in the zone in any sport, anything you're doing in life, you are not thinking about the mechanics. You are not, but when you're struggling, you are, right? If a pitcher can't find the strike zone, all of a sudden he gets very aware of each part of his delivery. When a golfer is shanking, right? He is thinking about his backswing and his weight transition and keeping his head down and all of these things. When you're playing well, you're not thinking about anything like that. You're just seeing the ball, hitting the ball, right? If you're struggling at the free throw line, all of a sudden you start thinking about your mechanics instead of just shooting. And that's what it feels like with Woolen. And that cost them in a big moment. But overall, I was pretty encouraged by the defense, especially up the middle. It's the peripheral of the defense that gets paid the most money in the modern NFL. It's your edge rushers and it's your cornerbacks. But those guys can excel only if the middle of the defense is doing their job. I mean, think back to the last 3 years of the Pete Carroll era and how demoralizing it was to watch that defense that just couldn't stop teams from running it right up the middle, right? It didn't matter how good the pass rush was or how good the corners were because they were never called on to do anything because teams just ran at you. When I look at this defense, outside of Devin Witherspoon, who's kind of a box corner anyway, the three best players on this defense are right up the middle. It's Leonard Williams on the defensive line, right in the middle. It's Ernest Jones, middle linebacker, and it's Julian Love at safety. And I thought all three of them were really, really good yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Bumpus mentioned that their player of the game was Julian Love, and it was the same kind of thing. It's kind of like when that game against the Rams, and we were like, man, we'd all be talking about Cody White were it not for this. Like, we'd all be talking about Julian Love having a hell of a game were it not for this loss. And he has just gone completely under the radar. And I think it's because two of his best seasons are obviously the two with Seattle, and that he struggled a little bit. It's like it came onto the scene promising, struggled a little bit with New York, not struggled, but wasn't playing his best.
Right.
And then took off with Seattle, but we're not talking about Seattle as a championship defense. They're not quite on the radar there yet. I agree with you on the feeling I had about the defense leaving this one. It was frustrating to see the 49ers offense just chip away. I know I mentioned that explosive play. There were, three or so other 25-plus yard plays or 20-plus yard plays, but they were mostly just inching down the field. And look, it's going to happen. Some penalties that I think were a little egregious. The roughing the passer call that I don't think was necessarily. Yeah. So that's going to happen in games. But I left this feeling like the week one defense I saw this year was much better than the week one defense I saw under Mike McDonald last year. And it's not close. And when you're starting 10 yards out from the starting line rather than, behind the sticks, you're like, okay, well, what are they going to look like in week 8? You want to stay healthy, but where can they build from here? It was really, really encouraging to see that because so often we'd seen I guess there's no carryover from last year. They're just, they're just going to be bad, I guess. But this was The defense hit the ground running. They weren't perfect, but they were really, really encouraging.
Yeah, I thought so too. And, it's tough because they had no margin for error in this game. Mm-hmm. And they had no margin for error in this game because the offense scored 13 points. Talking about how happy you would be to hold any opponent, especially 49ers, to 17. Well, 13 is not going to get it done in any game. Like, you can be as mad at Rick Woolen as you want to be. 13 points you should never expect to win an NFL game if that's
unless
all
you're
you
the Rams
do.
with 14.
Right. Yeah. Right. But even that's an outlier, right? Like, I would love to see what the winning percentage is in the NFL over the last 20 years when you score 13 points or less. And so what's really tough, and look, I'm not just totally saying that what we saw in week 1 is how it's going to go all season. Like, the Cincinnati Bengals had 141 total yards yesterday. I'm not worried about the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Mm-hmm. But the Cincinnati Bengals offense has a track record and superstars. And we know that they can score a lot of points. We don't know that about this version of the Seahawks offense yet. All we know is what we saw yesterday. And I don't know about you, Stacy, but I feel like I was sold a false bill of goods yesterday because I was promised under center, fullback, play action, Clint Kubiak football. And if I didn't know any better, I would have thought Ryan Grubb was the offense coordinator still. Because they were out of shotgun the entire game. They ran one play action pass yesterday. One. Only the Saints had a lower percentage of play action passes in the entire NFL than the Seahawks, who that was their whole selling point. They looked vanilla. They looked conservative. They looked like they were trying to hide their quarterback.
We got a lot of texts saying they were conservative. I asked Bump if he thought they were conservative. He was like, maybe predictable, which could be a little bit different. Like, you can
That's
see what
probably
they're
a better
trying.
word.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can see what Kubiak is trying to establish. It wasn't like Grubb, where it's like you do, that Arizona game where they take off and then not build on it. It was more of like, well, why not push it a little bit more? Why not show a few different looks? If the entire point of the Shanahan offense is to have the same pre-snap look and then do different things out of it to confuse through like kind of a simplicity. Well, then why aren't you doing that? Why are you doing the same stuff? And so I get that kind of frustration. What was weird for me is it's like they got cute when it was frustrating to see. So when Cody White has that great return, and they took over at midfield, and those 3 plays they have, and I know one is an incompletion to JSN, and incompletions are going to happen in a game, but the other 2, I just thought, like, this is too cute. And what was strange is, if you hadn't showed me that series at all, I would have said, man, this is being called like a coordinator or a team that maybe only has faith in JSN, its running backs, like maybe is still working on trust with other parts of the offense. But then you look at those 3 plays and you're like, there's a willingness here to be creative. It felt incredibly disjointed. I think there are multiple things at play. Your interior offensive line play was not great.
Oh, Bradford just got worked over.
Day. Abe Lucas, obviously, in the last moment, going against Nick Bosa is tough, but that did end up costing you the game. You didn't bring Cooper Kupp here to just hang out. I mean, JSN accounted for 124 of Darnold's 150 yards, and I am okay with one receiver getting the lion's share of something. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's his day. You know what I mean? If it's working, don't go away from it. Who really cares? I'm very worried about heading into week 2 going, I don't even know what else you have here. I would anticipate that they get Kupp involved more. Mike McDonald mentioned him by name this morning with Brock and Salk, so I would think they try to incorporate that more. Bump mentioned, certainly on the final play with Darnold, that Kupp was right there. And it's like, if you just throw it to Kupp over the middle, like, he was like, that's game. So I would anticipate that gets a little bit more, but I don't know who this offense is without Jacson, Smith-Njigba. I have no idea. And I thought we'd be entering the season going, oh, this is an offense that can run the ball. This is an offense that can be physical. This is an offense that can set a tone that's complementary of this really, violent defense. And it felt like an offense that was lost.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's not like they didn't try to run the ball. They ran the ball on
unsuccessfully
53% of their plays. Yeah. They had more running plays than they had dropbacks in this game. Mm-hmm. And for what? You know, I mean, it was the running back lined up, flat-footed next to the quarterback, taking the handoff with no momentum, and then having to try and pick their way behind a line that isn't there yet. The whole point of the Kubiak scheme is to make life easier on your running backs by putting athletic linemen in motion. They put together, whether they're good or not remains to be seen, but they put together an extremely athletic offensive line. And we saw glimpses in training camp and the preseason of how that works when you get those guys on the move. And instead of saying, hey, I need you to go chest to chest with this dude and win for 3 seconds, it's no, I need you to hit an angle for half a second and then move to the second level. There was none of that. You're carrying a fullback. You used a draft pick and a roster spot on a fullback. Where was he? Right? You've got no depth in this receiving core.
Yeah.
You cut MVS. Well, if you're going to carry that fullback, let's fucking see the fullback. Like that is the whole point of going to the Kubiak system, is to make life easier on your playmakers. And it was just like, save us, JSN. You're our only hope. Because he had 52% of the target share and 83% of the receiving share, and that is not going to be sustainable.
No, and to your point about intentionally, taking that fullback, making a plan to run, I kept thinking back to that game against the Rams. You have, I think, 1 or 2 yards to get, go for it. You can't get it. And we had just lamented all year long, God, I wish that I wouldn't have made fun of Schottenheimer for wanting to run the ball, because now I want nothing more than to be able to run this damn football. And so I had that kind of top of mind with like the entire thing. You're not going to be 100% on third down for the season. The feeling I was hoping to have with this team is that when it got into 3rd and 2, you felt confident, or you felt like I got a pretty. That's the feeling I was hoping to get when I kept hearing we're going to run the ball, we're going to run the ball, we're going to run the ball. I was like, I want to see that moment. So I do want to point out, yesterday and this morning when Mike McDonald was talking about getting into those third downs, not converting, they were 3 for 10, and he's like, we got to do better on early downs. I went back and looked at all the third downs. The 3 that they were able to convert were 3rd and 1, 3rd and 1, and 3rd and 4. Cool. There was a 3rd and 2, a 3rd and 5, a 3rd and 3 that you didn't convert. They did have, I was looking at it in front of me, they had a 3rd and 18. Tough.
Sure.
That was when JSN fumbles it out of bounds.
Sure.
3rd and 11, also tough. Everything else was not overly behind the sticks. We're talking like 3rd and manageable. Those are the situations. It's not an ideal third down situation, but these are the moments when you want to be able to impose your will a little bit, to be a little tougher offensively. I don't want to look down, see all your missed third downs, and see 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 3. I don't want to see that over and over and over again. If it's 3rd and 20, I'm just like, who got a flag? Yep. What happened here? This, to me, was the hardest part of those third down moments.
I see third downs, and especially 3rd and shorts, as heads-up poker, where the cards matter, but the chip stack matters more. And if it's just me versus you, and you've got a lot more chips than I do, you have more options with how you play these cards than I do. You can bluff better. You can do all of these things. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, that is big stack poker, where you have the leverage. And Seattle put themselves in that position, and then they just didn't play very good poker in those situations.
No.
And you almost wonder if it was a lack of faith in the offense to execute, because 4th and 1 in field goal range in a tie game, 3.5 minutes left. Like, that's whether or not it was the right decision, the analytics are going to tell you to go for it, but there's going to be a lot of people that say, analytics, can mislead you. You got to go with your gut. That's fine. But that in week 1 against the division rival, whether you like it or not, that decision is messaging. It's messaging to your team, and it's messaging to your fans. And the messaging was, we're going to kick this. I don't think we can get this yard with the game on the line. And that to me was disappointing.
Yeah, I was initially disappointed just because it's not my decision to make. So as a viewer of the game, or as like an analyst, you're just like, come on, do it. Yeah. Like, let's see something spicy here. As a coach, I think I would have made the same decision. And I already know that I'd be a more conservative play caller. I've accepted that about myself. I didn't hate the decision there. I did feel a little nervous, and I felt nervous because it had felt like the defense, was just bending, and it's like they're going to snap. Something's going to happen here. I don't trust that they can completely hold this 49ers offense at bay. This 49ers offense has been chipping away with 10, 11 play drives. I think they're just going to move right down the field. And I assumed at the time, oh, they're going to kick a field goal. We're going to go into overtime. Like, that's how I felt when they kicked a field goal. I thought, we're going into overtime. I didn't think, oh, this is going to cost you the game. I think you're right overall in the messaging. Mike Macdonald, I think, disagree, but I don't know how you can. Like, I don't know how you can look at not giving the ball to your quarterback as anything but a lack of trust in that side of the ball. And you're going to have to change that. One thing that I talked about on the show today was it is okay, I think, for this offense to enter the season with some questions and even to struggle, kind of get, you have a new quarterback, you've got some new faces in your receiver room, you've got a lot of young guys, some new shifting along the offensive line, and a new coordinator. It is okay. I can accept that. I am not shocked by any means by the outcome of this game. However, you cannot in one hand say it's okay to struggle and it's okay to have some questions, and on the other expect to improve from last season. Last season, you won 10 games. I don't care what anyone says about the Rams resting their starters. Last season, you won 10 games. You did not make the playoffs. The only way up is to make the playoffs. So when does the bar raise? You know what I mean? Is it in week 2? Is it in week 3? It has to happen sooner rather than later. You better not be entering week 5 facing 4th and 1 in a must-win game going, why don't we I don't know that I trust this offense. You can't be a playoff team and have that mentality.
It didn't feel like they were coaching to win. It didn't feel like they were coaching to win in that stretch, because this is the way I see it. And look, I'm not going to pretend to know more about what goes into that decision than Mike Macdonald. I can only talk about it from my perspective. But the messaging is important to me in that moment, because your offense loses if you go for it and you don't make it. You have to answer for that, right? Offense couldn't get the yard. But your offense always also loses if you don't even give them a chance. That is a loss. That is saying we trust our defense more than our offense. In fact, we trust our defense with an extremely small margin for error more than we trust you to get 1 yard. So to me, it is a loss. It is a blow to the offense to choose to kick there. And it is so difficult for a defense against any NFL team, especially a Kyle Shanahan offense, to play 60 minutes with zero margin for error. They had none in that game. And eventually that bend did break. We saw it.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to ask, because this is what I was asking myself. Pretend you're Mike Macdonald in that moment. You've watched that game up to that moment. Scale of 1 to 10. What's your confidence level the offense gets the yard? I'm not asking you to pick the player, tell me what you do. What's your confidence level?
6.
Okay.
To get one,
mine's probably more like 4 or 5.
To get 1 yard?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Why we dressing Jalen Milroe? He's QB3. Why we got Robbie Oates on this roster? You have made roster decisions. You have made active game day lineups designed around winning short yardage.
Fair point.
There's no other reason to have Jalen Milroe not be your emergency quarterback. You're taking an active roster spot to have Jalen Milroe available for that play. You are taking an active roster spot from an MVS or whomever else that you wish had made the team to have Robbie Oates as your fullback on this roster. You have made short yardage decisions in the construction of your active lineup, and those guys weren't out there. So I don't know. Even if my confidence is a 4 or a 5, there's still a 1 in 5 chance that you miss that kick. It's not like it was a guaranteed chip shot, but now your best outcome is 3 points versus now, if you get it, your best outcome is a touchdown, or you just bleed 2 more minutes off the clock and kick a shorter field goal. And now the 49ers don't have a chance for a 10-play drive.
Yeah. Very fair point. You might have convinced me. I know my gut is one of a more conservative person. I think that I probably would have made the same call I blame like 3 other things as being bigger contributors to the. I didn't leave the game thinking you lost it when you didn't go for it on
I
4th
agree.
and 1.
And I don't want people listening or watching to have that be the takeaway.
No.
Like
No.
that we hyper focus on, like we talked about at the top, about 1 or 2 things, and we say it's all because of that, and we ignore the other 98%. There's a million variables. But this is why we watch. This is why we have shows, right? Is to talk about this and break that down. So my question for you, following up after talking about all those different aspects of the game, did yesterday's outcome adjust your expectations for this team in any way for the rest of the season?
Yes. I think it set me back on the offense. I think that the defense, I was not surprised by any means. I think I was just pleasantly happy, I guess, with where it was. Again, my point still standing about them being in such a better place week 1 compared to week 1 last year. That's a good thing. I feel great about the defense. I think any predictions about this being a top 5 unit or having the potential to do that, I think can completely still be fair. I did not leave the game feeling like that was a mistake. I left the game with more questions on offense than I did entering the game. And surprisingly, not even about Sam Darnold. Sure wish he wouldn't have fumbled the ball. Like in an ideal world, you'd love to see him do a little bit more. I think I almost would have felt better leaving the game thinking, God, they really ran the ball and Sam threw an interception late. It was something about them feeling directionless was more frustrating for me. And something about all these names we'd spent all training camp talking about. Oh, look at Torrey Horton. What a cool story. How awesome is this? Oh, my God. Elijah Arroyo, most underrated pick. You wouldn't believe how amazing he's going to be. This is Jimmy Graham 2.0. Like, this is going to be crazy. Nothing. Crickets. And I went back and looked at, like, every first down attempt, including starting drives and then additional first downs added. One time was someone not named Jacson Smith-Njigba, Zach Charbonnet, or Ken Walker touching the ball on that first down. And it was Elijah Arroyo with a pass. Like, this is an offense that leaned heavily into its running backs ineffectively and then turned to JSN in a way that made that wide receiver room feel so much more limited than it seemed on paper. I don't feel great.
What happens when the next defensive coordinator looks at this game and says, well, just double JSN?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
the answer is you need to establish your run. Like, the answer is you desperately need to make yourself a multifaceted offense because you were flat in this one. Your only way to move down the field was to throw to him.
I want to circle back to the establishing the run. So don't let me move on without coming back to that. But is it concerning to you that your answer to that isn't, well, the former all-pro wide receiver that they just gave $15 million a year to needs to get open?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't see, like, yes, he was open late and could have had a big play for sure. But he also had like a very awkward looking drop on a third down. He had 2 catches for 15 yards. Like, I hope there's more than just veteran leadership coming in with Cooper Kupp.
I was talking with someone in the offseason who knows a lot about this team and was asking, hey, just honestly, tell me the truth about Cooper Kupp. Do you think that, like, he's really going to have like 1,000 yards? Like, they tapped into something cool, or do you think it's mostly like a really good presence? And he was like, I think the latter, but, and this is someone who knows, I think the latter, but obviously can still be a big contributor. Like, really good to have him here. And I think his point too was people really underestimate how much it matters. Like, we write off personality hires or like leadership. It's like, oh, who really cares? Like, can he ball? Is he an all pro or not? And it's like, no, that stuff actually deeply matters in terms of setting the tone, especially with a head coach that's turned over so much of his offensive staff. Like, that's hugely important.
But can that guy be your number 2 option on offense? Like, isn't that what you want from like your number 3 or your number 4?
It is. I think what I was doing is I was looking a bit at like, all right, well, let's look at like Washington's offense last year. And what sucks is you don't have Jaden Daniels. That's a huge part of that.
Yeah.
But if you look at Washington's offense, a lot of doubt about the offensive line heading into the season. Your primary target's Terry McLaurin, and that's really it. Jason's not Terry McLaurin, a different profile. I don't know that your offensive line can surprise people, and Sam Darnold is not as dynamic as Jaden Daniels. That being said, we know that there can be good, efficient offenses with like a very clear number one wide receiver and a secondary target being a tight end, or a tight end and a running back and then a wide receiver. There's a massive gap in some solid offenses between the primary target and the next closest wide receiver. The thing is, you need a number 2 and 3. So if it's not going to be Cooper Kupp as your number 2 guy, meaning 800-ish yards, well, then it needs to be Elijah Arroyo, or it needs to be A.J. Barner, or it needs to be Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker are combining and getting, 800 to 900 yards this season apiece. Like you need either an incredibly prolific run game, or you need someone else to step up. It's okay if you don't have this really deep receiver group. The thing is, in football, you do need to throw the ball. In an ideal world, someone else is there to catch it. And I do not know who that's going to be right now. And I'm not holding out hope that a rookie, Torrey Horton, who we can all be excited about, is going to jump into that role quickly. I think it's okay to give him time to acclimate, but like, okay, well, what do you do for week 2?
I know.
What are you going to do for week 2? I mean, I guess the Jets did run on the Steelers, but that was Breece Hall. Is Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet going to do it?
Yeah. I mean, Breece Hall was the only running back taken ahead of Ken Walker the year that he was drafted, and they were the clear top 2 running backs in that draft class. I do think there's a lot of similarities from a talent perspective. They win in different ways, but, I think that's possible. And I'm glad you mentioned 2 running backs, because I do want to circle back to your point about being able to establish the run as this is how you mitigate a team trying to take away JSN moving forward. Ken Walker, 10 carries, 20 yards, 3 catches, 4 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 12 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Are we seeing Charbonnet take the mantle as the lead running back? Or is this a case of Ken Walker didn't practice much this offseason? It is a new, scheme for him. He may still be working through injuries. Like, how do you look at that backfield moving forward?
I want to say from the jump that Ken Walker is exceptionally talented, and Ken Walker's your fastest running back. And no one has a greater likelihood, if he's got open space in front of him, to get a touchdown than Ken Walker.
He's the only home run hitter left on this team.
You know what I'm saying? And I've been hearing people say, oh, well, Zach Charbonnet fits the scheme a little bit more, which in those conversations, I'm like, yeah, for sure, that makes sense. But if you're an offensive coordinator that can't figure out how to use a talented player, like, get a new job. It may not fit exactly. Like, Ken Walker may not have been exactly the running back that Clint Kubiak would have drafted for his offense, but it's the one he has. So figure out a way to use him. You know what I mean? Like, you got to find a way to incorporate him. And you can see Clint Kubiak adjust his offense and the way he approached things going from Minnesota to the Saints to complement different personnel. We know he's perfectly capable of it.
That's right.
The thing that was sticking with me most from training camp was an interview we had with Clint Kubiak when we got like a listener question, and it was, what's an ideal running back? Like, what does he look like? And he mentioned, so I didn't ask him about Charbonnet. I didn't ask him about Walker. I read it verbatim. What's an ideal running back? And he mentioned as part of this answer, Zach Charbonnet's IQ. And he said, if there's something Zach doesn't understand, I didn't explain it right. And just being blown away by him understanding this game. I think that they would love, just the way I interpret it, I think they'd love for Zach to take off. I think that he really understands this offense. I would imagine as an offensive coordinator, it's incredibly freeing when you feel like a guy gets the language and knows what you're trying to do and can read what you want on the offensive line. So I would anticipate Zach gets involved a lot sooner this year than he did last year. He had, I think, more snaps than Walker, so that's not shocking. I don't want to lose sight of how important Walker is. I was already seeing text today, trade Walker. And what? You're going to be a running offense and you're going to trade away Ken Walker? What was the point? Then what was the point? No, you're not going to trade away Walker. You need to find a way to use him more.
Well, and I do think that he's uniquely gifted to take advantage of an under center wide zone run scheme, which again was the bill of goods that we were sold with Clint Kubiak.
Right.
That's how he won at Michigan State, winning the Doak Walker Award as the nation's best running back. It's how he got taken in the top 40 of the NFL draft, is because if you let him get momentum before he has the ball, he's already nearing top speed by the time defenders are coming off of their blocks. If he's just standing next to the quarterback in the backfield, that is not how he wins. Charbonnet is very good at sussing out what the defenders are going to be coming off their blocks at which angles and where his gaps are going to be. And he can kind of win with this guile that, is beyond his years. That is not Ken Walker. And it's not to say Walker isn't brilliant. You just cannot have the type of explosive runs without having real football IQ. It's not just a physical gift, but he is not designed to win the same way that Charbonnet is. And the offense that they called yesterday was much more suited to Charbonnet's skill set than the one we thought we were going to see. And so that to me is very, very interesting. And so I want to, before we get you out of here, take that conversation, transition into next week. What is it that you're going to be looking for the most against the Steelers?
So I'm going to start with limiting turnovers. I would love for the defense to continue to try to get their takeaways. You'd be such a good
NFL coach. You've got the press conferences. We're going to establish the run. We're going to limit turnovers.
I need you to guess the team that led the league last year in forced fumbles.
In forced fumbles, the team that led, I'm going to take the bait and say the Steelers.
That is correct.
Hey,
so,
all right.
On the offensive side of things, you had Jacson, Smith-Njigba fumbling, Sam Darnold fumbling. And those were two drives in which they had some momentum. Mm-hmm. So I think I was so hungry to see any kind of rhythm on the offense and so disappointed that the two instances where you kind of got it going. So what I want to see is getting into rhythm, and that ends with a touchdown. Don't turn the ball over. Watch for those forced fumbles. Watch for a Steelers defense that really wants to pounce on the ball and build a rhythm. Just if there was even two scoring drives where it's like, oh, they're getting into a rhythm. This is great. That to me is a 100% increase from week one.
The Steelers offense looked a whole lot better than I thought they were going to.
Yeah.
And maybe Aaron Rodgers just needed to feel doubted again, because he did not hold back after the game, saying how important it was to beat, quote, everyone involved with the Jets organization.
Yeah.
And when he went to New York, it was like a victory parade. Oh, our savior is here. And, got hurt the first year, but this year, watch out. And he stunk. And now it's like, oh, he's washed and he ain't worth it. And, he's the last guy anyone wanted and all these things. And he's like, fucking watch this. Because whatever you feel about Aaron Rodgers, the person, or even Aaron Rodgers, the player, that dude has some serious fuck you DNA in him. And I do appreciate that about him a lot. And he went out and threw 4 touchdowns on 26 passes. Like, he was cooking. And that Jets defense is talented. And Aaron Glenn is a hell of a coach. And he took them apart. And now his new number 1 wide receiver just watched his Hall of Fame quarterback have a revenge game and ball the hell out. Now it's DK's turn to have his revenge game. How many points do the Seahawks have to score for you to feel confident that they would win?
28, a high 20s. I'm going to say. What was it in this one? Did it get into the 30s? I wrote it down. Why do I feel like it was like 34, 33? Maybe I'm skipping.
I thought it was going to be the lowest scoring game on the slate yesterday. And they had like 60 points in that game.
I think you're going to need high 20s. I think you're going to need. I don't have confidence that they can take the massive step forward I think they need on offense, but I have intrigue. And I look, Jacson Smith-Njigba, if there's something that someone wants to take from this game that isn't making them hate everything, I thought Jacson
real deal,
amazing,
real deal.
I already had a high opinion of him, and I lost that game going like, holy smokes, this guy is primed for a great season, and he's going to get the lion's share of those targets.
Yep.
Likewise, we've seen Ken Walker at his very, very, very best. So this Seahawks have talent. This isn't a team heading in there that had 4 wins last year. This is a team that was on the cusp of getting to the playoffs, that tried to improve as much as they could. I think it's just, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think you need like Sam Darnold to win this one? I know earlier Mike, on his show was saying like ultimately for him, it always comes back to the quarterback. So even though it's very unfair, he was looking at that fumble going, that's where the game's lost. Like it might not be fair, but
it just is. My takeaway, and look, I know that people tie me to a narrative. You know, I'm obviously a big Geno guy. I was not thrilled about the pivot to Sam Darnold. I have also been just extremely open and honest about wanting to be wrong. Like I will be on this show telling you I was wrong about Sam Darnold if he balls out. And if they win a playoff game, you'll hear it from me first. But I got to see it. I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, no, Sam Darnold is actually really good because he's a Seahawk now. The way that I always look at it is pick some random team that you don't care about. Yeah. You know, call it the Titans or the Falcons or some other team that you're just not emotionally invested in, the Miami Dolphins. Sure. By the way, RIP to our boy down in Miami. I know you and I have been fighting for the love of Mike McDaniel. I hope it bounces back. I had to bring it up because I know you and me, we're competing for him. We do love him. Love him.
He's our angel.
He is. But like, if Sam Darnold was just on some other team that wasn't your favorite team, would you be like, oh yeah, you absolutely should be giving him the benefit of the doubt after that game?
No, we'd be talking about it like how the 49ers backups randomly beat them, or like the Steelers. You'd be like, well, don't look past the backups. You never know. That's how I'd be talking about that game.
We'd be talking about him like Mac Jones. That's just how it is. And until he is not the Sam Darnold he's always been outside of Minnesota, it's just the opinion that I'm going to hold. So in order for Seattle to win this game, they're not going to be able to do it, in my opinion, by having long, sustained drives, bleeding the clock out. They're going to have to hit home runs because I think the Steelers are going to hit home runs in this game. Yep. They're going to need field flipping plays. They're going to need 40 and 50-yard downfield shots. They're going to need Ken Walker to break a big run. Where is the play action go shots that the New Orleans Saints of all teams used before their injuries last year to score 91 points in their first 2 games, where Derek Carr had like more touchdowns than incompletions? Derek Carr throwing to Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Johnson was putting up 45 a game. Like, where is that?
A stacked Saints roster. That's a really good point.
So like that's what it's going to take. I don't think this is going to be like, oh, we can try and be the team that scores 17 and hold them to 13 instead of the other way around. If you're doing that, to me, that is just coaching scared. It's playing scared, and it's trying to hide your quarterback. And I really want to see an offense that isn't trying to hide its quarterback.
Are you going to be watching for a Mike McDonald, do you have confidence in your offense moment in this game?
Absolutely. And I'll say this. Here's what I'm doing if I'm Mike McDonald, is I'm taking my cornerback 5, cornerback 6, whoever that is, Shaquille Griffin, and I'm starting him. And you know DK Metcalf's my favorite player. That hasn't changed with him. He's still my favorite player. Secretly, I hope the Seahawks win, but I hope DK goes fucking nuts in this game. I love that guy. But I also know that there's 2 sides to that coin. And I'm taking Shaquille Griffin or whomever, and on the first play, I'm getting into DK Metcalf's face mask, knowing how amped up he is going to be. And I am trying to goad that guy into taking a swing and getting out of here on the first drive. And Aaron Rodgers, if you want to beat me with Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin Jr.,
sure,
go for it.
Then do it.
And then I'm putting freaking George Halani or whoever out there to go get in Jalen Ramsey's face mask, and let's get him out of here too.
This is very Gordon Bombay of you. Like, I know Absolutely. That he was more of like faking injuries, but this is thinking with your third eye. I'm just in terms of a coaching approach.
I'm just trying to find that edge, because if DK is like, I just saw what Aaron Rodgers did to stick it to the team that moved on from him. You know he's got 160 and 2 scores on his mind all week long. And he knows these guys because he's run against them in practice for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear what Mike Tomlin said?
No.
Following that game-winning kick. He said, our guy, the kicker, is a serial killer.
I did hear that. He's like, like talking about like grit and tenacity, and this is what it takes to win football games. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, he's going to talk about TJ Watt.
Brother.
He's going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf. He's like, Boz, man, our kicker, he's a serial killer. I'm like, that's fucking, all right.
Not even like, oh, he's just a killer. Like, it wouldn't be weird to hear he's a killer. He's out for blood.
Right.
We all know, but I've never heard, oh yeah, he's a serial killer.
I love that. I love that.
Low pulse rate.
I mean, I think Mike Tomlin, different demeanor, but in a lot of ways, from a culture building standpoint, from a sustained floor standpoint, he's the AFC's Pete Carroll, right?
I love him.
And I'm such a Tomlin honk. That guy is on my short list of favorite coaches in the NFL, and he will have his guys ready. So last question for you before you get out of here. Mm-hmm. If you get the score exactly right, hypothetical, you win the Powerball, but it's got to be exact. It's got to be the exact right score. What are you predicting in this game?
I want to say it takes more than 30 to win, but I don't think the Seahawks are getting it, and I want to make the Seahawks win. So I'll say 28. Let's go 28-24 Seattle.
Okay. I love that, and I love it so much because my exact prediction is 28-24 Pittsburgh.
No, I think that unfortunately I do fear, as my sister always says, I fear the Steelers will win this one. But I just 2 losses to start the season is tough stuff.
Yeah, I want to be wrong. You're going to hear me say that a lot this year. I want to be wrong, but the Steelers are going to score points in this game, and the Seahawks are going to have to. And I don't yet have reason to believe that Seattle has 4 touchdowns in them. No,
I think Seattle would need 200 yards on the ground, and I'd feel good about this game. Yeah. I mean, for that matter, the Jets, I don't know if they surpassed it or it came pretty close.
They did come pretty, I mean, they showed that you can run.
Everything.
That's right. Of course, a lot of that is predicated on one of the most talented running quarterbacks that the league has ever seen, right?
Very important.
Like Justin Fields got after it running the football too. I think he ran for 2 touchdowns. Like that sets up a lot of things that Seattle is not going to be able to do unless you're doing some Milroe packages, right? You do at least have that option with Milroe. So I'll be curious to see if they pull him out of the holster in this one.
Oh God, did you think that they'd put Milroe? I thought they'd put Milroe out one. If you're getting him in there on the 3rd play from scrimmage to start the game and then never again, I just thought I just assumed they'd do one thing to start it that early. I thought
this is my whole thing about being sold a false bill of goods. We were told, like I said, under center, play action, fullback football with deep shots. Yeah. And we were told half a dozen Jalen Milroe plays. And then we saw it on the first drive and we're like, oh yeah, baby, here we go. All right, this is going to be the ace up the sleeve. And then it's just clipboard time the rest of the game. So
you feel like you got Timu Kubiak offense. You were like, but this isn't what I ordered.
That's right.
This is not what
the thread count on this is not what I was expecting.
Yeah. You're like, I just put my hand through the sheet. What's going on?
Totally. Listen, Stacy, I'm just so grateful for your time today. Thank you. I know that you already spent your entire day talking about this game for your job. So the fact that you gave us an hour of your time to do more of that means the world. Thank you very much.
Oh, always a blast.
Yeah. Listen, before you get out of here, just let the folks who are listening who may not know where they can get more of you.
So you can listen to me and Michael Bumpus every single day on Seattle Sports 710 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific, or follow on X at Stacy Rost.
Once again, a huge thank you to Stacy for coming on. It is clear just how much she enjoys the sport, how much she likes talking about this game, how much she knows, and really, really grateful for her time today. As always, you can find Mike and I on social media. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jacson Bevins. That's Jacson. Remember that no K is okay when spelling my name. Mike is on both at Mike Barwin, and the show itself is at Cigar Thoughts on Twitter and at CigarThoughtsNFL.com on Blue Sky. You can catch full video episodes on our YouTube channel at Cigar Thoughts and find the rest of our socials at CigarThoughtsNFL.com. As mentioned previously, this episode is brought to you by Balvenie Premium Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of their lineup, and we are thrilled to have them on board as a sponsor of the show. One of the great things about a great Scotch, y'all know it by now, is how well it plays with a good cigar. So once again, we do have our own special releases of cigars that you can purchase at a terrific price as a listener of the show. The release of these Cigar Thought Stogies has been successful enough for us to continue offering them for the low price of $149. That's right, just $149 for a bundle of 10. As many of you know, we partnered with one of the most prestigious cigar manufacturers in the world to release these official Cigar Thought cigars, which you can order directly from cigarthoughtsnfl.com. Just follow the link on the show page to get these easy-to-smoke stogies rolled with 13-year aged premium Dominican tobacco leaf, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll send you the details directly. The cigars come with a Bovita humidification pack and a Mylar storage bag to make sure they stay fresh whether you have a humidor or not. And of course, you can listen to this show at fieldgoals.com and everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you like the show, drop us a 5-star rating and leave a quick review. Thank you to all of y'all listening for your continued support of the show. You know you've only got so much time for podcasts in your life, and it is an honor to be a part of that for y'all. Please know that by sharing this show on social media and with your friends, you give us the juice to keep making this happen. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, onwards and upwards, my friends.